Hello, hello, my fellow sensitive people. I'm here at the office. Just wanted to do a quick video talking about last night's remote and a little bit about what it feels like to do a remote, the technique that I'm using. Last night I did a remote where I followed the energy to, it was the Queen. Queen Elizabeth, Britain, the Commonwealth, etc. When you are doing the heart-centered remote, the purpose of the heart-centered remote is really to gain empathy and to really put yourself in the shoes of the other person, and for all intensive purposes, give up the ego and feel as if you are that person. So sometimes, so you feel the emotions of the person, and then it's the job of a remote viewer to translate those feelings into language that people can understand. So people said, well, Queen Elizabeth is not the Queen of England, she's the Queen of Great Britain, the Commonwealth, etc. That's missing the point of the remote. The purpose of the remote is not to get the words exactly right, but to really to allow yourself to connect your heart to the other person, put yourself in their shoes. You're not channeling what they're telling you. In a remote viewing, you're not channeling and the person's not talking to you. That's a channeled reading. In a remote viewing, you allow yourself to take on the skin or the energy of the other person, so much so that you lose self, lose the ego, and for all intensive purposes during the remote, that person takes over. And the part of you that is the remote viewer steps back, allows the process to happen, and observes the emotions that are being processed. So in the case of the remote viewing I did on Elizabeth II, when I followed the energy and found myself in her shoes, somebody had criticized the fact that what I was doing was invasive. We always ask permission from spirit. Anybody who's watched this channel knows that. We never invade somebody's personal space without first going through the 5-step meditation that we've taught on this channel, which is to first ground ourselves, bring white light up, put ourselves in a meditative state, then open the 3rd and 4th chakra specifically so that you can begin to feel or sense and connect to the other person with their permission. And then when you open your heart to them, they come in, so to speak, they take over, and then you step back. That's the best way for me to describe what it's like for me in the process. Sometimes I'll get the word wrong, like Queen Elizabeth of England. But the feeling is really what I want people to take away here. And it's a feeling that she was very disappointed by how Meghan was treated. It was a fascinating remote for me because I'm really anti-royalty. I really think it's it really goes against my belief systems, the whole idea of royalty. So it was fascinating to allow myself to be in the shoes of Queen Elizabeth, because when I was in that energy, when I was connecting to it, I didn't feel that I was better than anybody else. I didn't feel that I was better than somebody who was born poor or less opportunities. I saw my function. I felt that I had a function, and my function was to hold everything together. I really saw my role as royalty to keep consistent protocol so that that the nation, the Commonwealth, etc., had something to look up to that was going to hold the community together, like a northern star, so to speak, or some image that it's as if she has agreed to be the queen bee to hold the consciousness together, to hold the ethos together. And so she never saw that as, when I was in this energy, she didn't see it as a genetic thing. It's really that she saw her job as, okay, I'm going to agree to be the person that holds the space that's going to hold the space for this community. That's the best way for me to describe how I felt when I was in that space. And the burden of that. But I also felt that she was someone who did, in her own way, try to be a reformer, whether it was women's rights or trying to include more culture and more diversity within her community. Having, when I sat in her shoes, I saw myself fascinated by people from other countries, India and other parts of the world, and having friends from other parts of the world that had taught me so much, and I found it intriguing, and we shared common interests like horticulture and animals, etc. So I saw this connection that she had to all of her friends all over the world that were also monarchs, that felt it was their destiny, so to speak, to hold the space for their communities. And so within that context, when I saw how badly people were behaving with Meghan Markle, and that she was done to the point where she was going to leave, that helped me understand the remote, because I had done a remote before where I had seen Prince Charles speaking to his son about getting some counseling, and that counseling had helped him. So this takes us back to last night's remote, when I saw the Queen talking with Charles, asking Charles to speak to her grandson about this situation because she was very upset. So it's like playing phone tag when you go into the energy of the royals, because the Queen is upset. She hears that Meghan's upset. Meghan's leaving. Meghan needs to get away from this because it's too upsetting to her. So then the Queen gets upset, and then the Queen tells her son, then her son tells his son, and then his son tells Meghan. It's like phone tag. The protocol was fascinating to me of being in that energy. So that appears to be what happened. The Queen told Charles, Charles told the son, then they go into counseling, etc., etc., etc. But they are serious about leaving, and they are serious about quitting royalty. It's interesting, when I go into the remote on Harry wants to continue his studies. He says he wants to continue his studies, and he wants to be a teacher. So we could see him moving to Cape Town or moving to some remote area of South Africa and working as a teacher. And his wife, Meghan, is interested in programs that empower women and work towards women becoming more economically independent. So we could see that. We could see them leaving. They're not being royalty anymore, and Harry just going into teaching. That's basically what I see. But no, I don't think the Queen is happy about this. She doesn't want them to be driven out. She's embarrassed that they were driven out, and she felt that she expected more from the community. When I sit in these shoes, I expect more from the community, and I'm disappointed that my reforms, I'm disappointed by how people are handling this, and it makes me feel to some extent that I failed to do my job properly, to be honest with you. So I just wanted to get that out. To complete the remote from last night, number one, we always do the 5-step system. So we do the remote with, we do the meditation, heart-centered meditation, the way I've talked about it. We always ask permission. We don't necessarily hear the words, but when we are in the shoes of the other person, we feel the emotions, the frustration, the concerns, and then to the best of my ability, I put them into the words as best I can. So hopefully that explains a little bit more what it feels like for me. All right, thanks for watching, everyone. We'll see you next time. Peace out.